This time on Garden Makers, a garden in the sky, 8 floors up.
We've got the park in front of us, but to have something to have a lot of greenery and shrubbery would be great.
Yeah.
And in an old-fashioned garden, a touch of the Jekyll's creates the essence of England.
My father-in-law inherited it unexpectedly as the younger brother in 1948, and the place was completely overrun. My husband said he can remember you couldn't see out of a single window.
Even though they've been at it for a long time, London's Docklands is still finding its feet. There are huge areas waiting to be developed. It's a brave new world. But that didn't put off Angus and Wendy Eady, who love the feeling of space and the views along the River Thames right back into the city itself. In their apartment at the top of a new block near the Thames barrier, they want a garden on the roof terrace that will suit them and their new baby Samuel. So they've called in designer Paula Ryan.
Short of building something as tall as the other tower, you can't screen it out completely, but what we can do is veil it and at least offer you the feeling of some privacy. The space that you have out there really is, it's as big, if not bigger, than a lot of London gardens that we deal with all the time. It's a fantastic opportunity for you.
We did actually used to live just across the park,
right.
but had very, very small terraces there. So, you know, I suppose we found this one quite daunting in terms of its size. That it is a really big blank canvas. And you know, in terms of us moving here because of the baby, something that's really important to us is to have a space that is very child friendly. So everything that we incorporate into it needs to really take him into account. Yeah,
a lot of people, the temptation would be to push all the containers to the side, to push all the planting to the side, and with children living here, I really don't think that's a good idea, and I would like to keep quite a good space between anything raised within the garden and the railings at the edge. I mean, the railings are more than adequate height at the moment, but obviously if you put something up against them, then children can climb on them and then they become dangerous. Another area with safety considerations is water. Have you thought about having a water feature? Is that something you'd like?
Yeah, we'd love to have a water feature. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Because obviously then that is a safety consideration, and any standing water, you know, children, as sure as eggs, they will be attracted to this, and we don't want any accidents. So what we would look at is using some sort of vertical water feature, you know, a wall or something like that, but we'll develop that further when we come to the design.
That sounds great.
One of the benefits of this side of the building is that it's not overlooked. So it'd be nice to design something to sort of shield the views really on the other side. I think it needs breaking up a bit. It's obviously quite a large space. We've got access to some decking that we might be able to use.
Okay.
It's very much a cityscape that we look onto, and to have something that's natural. Or we've got the park in front of us, but to have something to have a lot of greenery and shrubbery would be great.
Yeah. I'd like to not just have the whole view laid out on a plate because it's boring and it's obvious, and I think I'll work to framing the views as well at the same time with some sort of screening or trees or vertical elements.
So there's a challenge. Back at her drawing board, Paula has to think about hidden problems. She can't make the garden too heavy for the balcony. And logistics. Short of using a crane, her team will have to bring everything up in the lift to the 8th floor and right through the newly decorated apartment. But as a designer who works in London every day, these are challenges she enjoys.
I went to see these people in April. I've probably designed 10 or 12 gardens since then. So I mean, this one was quite remarkable, obviously, its location, but, you know, how many L-shaped London terraced gardens would I have done in the meantime? And I wouldn't remember, and you don't always remember the details, and often when you look at the pictures, it's when you get the sort of sense of the spirit or the soul of the place, which, okay, as I say, this one's exceptional because it does have these landmarks and this amazing view. The pictures are essential. Also, as a technical tool, when you're drawing, sometimes, you know, your survey won't be complete and you're not sure what's the height there, what's this there, and you do end up sometimes counting bricks. and you know, well, a brick is this size and 10 bricks is this amount, and yeah, that confirms or unconfirms what you picked up in your survey. So there is London, but also New London, isn't it? It's Docklands, it's sort of the wild frontier, the wild east frontier, and I want to catch something of that. And the clients are a young couple. He's Scottish, she's South African. They're not, you know, gosh, they're quite different maybe than the people who've lived in the East End for the last, whatever, 100 years. It's all very vibrant, it's all very new. It's growing up around you. I mean, every time you go down there, there's a new building that's sprung up. I want to kind of capture a bit of that excitement and a bit of that sense of development. Privacy is going to be an issue. This block here will obviously have windows and people living in it. So they are, while now it's ugly for us to look at, in 6 months' time or a year's time it's going to be an issue with them looking at us. So these are all the things that we have to capture from this particular space. It's you know, it's lovely. It's an ideal roof terrace. Blank slate, good structure, great views. It's going to be a really, really interesting project.
For this rooftop terrace 8 floors up, Paula has come up with a scheme that includes raised beds for planting. She's chosen a mixture of grasses which will withstand the onslaught of a British winter wind whistling up the Thames, and added herbaceous perennials in burnished colours to complement a contemporary water feature. A curving copper wall set in one of those planted beds. There's space for Wendy and Angus to entertain, to sunbathe, and to play with Samuel, and shade provided by a pergola with a vine growing over it. Wendy and Angus have agreed that, quite apart from anything else, they want a deck, so the contractors are getting on with laying it down. It will be much more interesting than the slabs that came with the apartment.
I know, the planting I've done is going to be...
They've accepted Paula's suggestion for a water feature based on a copper wall. And now there's a big powwow going on about what type of plants will appear on the balcony.
For the plants, what I've suggested is that we use a ribbon of copper-coloured grasses, 3 different heights of grass, that will run along the long bed and behind the water feature and in front of the water feature, picking up the copper of the water feature. And in the low lights in the winter, like daylight to day, they're just going to shine out like a ribbon of copper and will move in the breeze.
You're rather limited when it comes to a modern terrace like this. Anything traditional will seem odd. It's got to be in keeping with the steel and glass style that was chosen by the building's architect. But I think there's great excitement in being honest about this, in dealing with modern materials and finding architectural plants to create that outdoor room. Paula Ryan understands this perfectly. She's got real flair for designing gardens with a contemporary feel. Designers have to be jacks of all trades, but I reckon Paula is most at home with this kind of style. And Angus and Wendy are benefiting from that. In part 2, 3 generations of gardeners